Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of This Ain't Fake Brother. As usual, and most mornings I wake up Neil Marshall. I'm joined by Kenny Murphy. How are you, Ken?
I'm not bad, Neil. How are you?
Not too bad. Just want to talk about some of the gremlins in the system last week. And Ken, unfortunately, we lost a little bit of audio quality compared to week 1. We are hammering out the bugs, but I'm going to give us another potential buy for this week. We basically have a new program in. And next week again we're going to have new mics in. So I don't know if this is going to sound better than week 1.
Can't wait to talk about this, baby.
If this is going to sound better than week 2. But it will certainly sound better than ever when we get all the gimmicks and bells and whistles in. And speaking of gimmicks, Ken, I've got my fourth little gimmick to add to our collection. So obviously we have Steve Gerrard, who's still having a scoop, celebrating his retirement from international career.
I see that, yeah.
We have Steve Borden, who just won't put pen to paper.
Stinger.
We've got Gorilla Monsoon, dead, and we have John Cena.
Yes.
You got me that.
Yes,
well,
I got your wife that,
there
yeah.
you go.
Your time is up, his time is now, Neil. In terms of the gremlins in the system last week, the problem was the gremlins were too far away from the system. I'm kind of a rookie when it comes to this podcast thing, and I was sitting very, very far away from the microphone, and I just assumed that my booming voice would come across loud and clear. But hopefully that will be rectified this week, and we don't shit the bed like WWE did on Sunday night.
Okay, we're going to get to Sunday night in a second. We're going to cover the pay-per-view. We're going to cover Raw. We're going to go through the podcast roundup as always. But the first thing we're going to talk about is some news. And Ken, if there's anything I've left off here, please feel free to bring it up. But first off, Hulk Hogan is going to be back on TV before SummerSlam. Do you see him involved in SummerSlam, or is it just kind of all hands on deck on the lead up to what they consider the second most important pay-per-view of the year, but in reality this year it's probably the third?
I think it's always the third, isn't it, really, these days?
I'm counting the September pay-per-view is the second most in terms of network.
Okay, yeah. I think that whatever he does, it won't be much, because what we've seen from what they've done to him so far, it's been remarkably underwhelming. He came in, remember his big return on Raw before WrestleMania? He just came in, cut a promo, told us to buy the network and left.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much been it. I think that they're not comfortable with him doing anything remotely physical. He's kind of, in WWE, he's the opposite to where he was in TNA. In TNA, the whole show was built around him, where it didn't need to be. In WWE, they just do nothing with him, which is same with Flair last time he was on the show,
I think that's different. I think with Flair, it was a case where, obviously we heard he was planning on coming back with The Miz. And
where they were planning on having him come back with him.
Sure, and The Miz obviously came back the week beforehand, and no Flair. So when they had Flair come back on the show, they just really didn't have any idea what to do with him.
Yeah, I wondered when I saw Miz use the figure 4 again on Monday if that was foreshadowing. But anyway, we'll get to that later on. But I don't see Hogan having much of a role. I think it's just all hands on deck.
The network numbers coming out very soon. I believe it's the end of this week, isn't it?
26th,
31st.
So 10 days from now.
Okay. Do you want to do predictions now? We save it till next week's show.
I'm happy to do predictions now.
Me too. Alright, so they're looking for basically...
They want 900.
Yes, they do. They want 900,000 subscriptions to kind of say that it's working. What do you think they'll have?
They've just been so desperate that even though all the hot shots and all the gimmicks they've used, the one with the $50 worth of free merch, which basically meant you were getting a free network subscription.
That was insane.
You would think that they would have gotten somewhere with all this, but I don't have any confidence. I think maybe 775.
Okay, I'm going to go with 810 because I knew you'd go lower than me. It's very interesting. They've tried everything, as you said. They've tried the merchandise thing. Buy the network, get a free T-shirt. That's one that's going on now. 3 free trials. It's going to be really interesting.
I will say one thing with the free trials is, with Netflix you have a month free trial whenever you want it if you want to sign up, and that is a very good thing, because I would have never signed up for Netflix. I was like, blah, didn't interest me, but we tried it. My wife found some things she liked. It's $7 a month. What are you going to do? We're signed up to it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the trial is a good idea, but you can't do it because they don't want to give away their pay-per-views for free. So you can't just do it forever, do it into perpetuity, which is unfortunate. But I do think I think maybe they should have a week or 2 weeks of each month where you have a free trial period. But it'll be interesting to see what they do.
We're going to talk about Lana and Rusev. We'll wait until basically between the pay-per-view and Raw to talk about what happened there. CM Punk was at a music awards show during Monday Night Raw, He was on the red carpet. He looked very good, that's for sure. Yeah, did you not see the video?
No, I just read about him.
Okay, cool. So basically, he was being interviewed by a bloke, and this gentleman had basically alluded to the fact that on Monday nights he had been busy in the past, and CM Punk, he said, you know, are you ever going to come back? And CM Punk basically said, no, never, ever, 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 ever. And he said it with a wink and a nod, as in to say that he was implying that it was never, but I think he knows himself that if he just like added a little bit of salt and sizzle to the steak, that people would go apeshit about it, and people will be questioning if he's being sincere or not. And he literally did say it with a wink and a nod. So anything you hear about people freaking out, it was completely done with the intention of people freaking out about it. In fact, the fact he did it with a wink and a nod makes me even think that he knows himself it's the wrestling business. When he was asked as well about how the last 6 months were for him, he kind of said something about having a concussion and staph infection. It was never really reported by any of the outlets, but I remember at the Rumble, the night his last appearance in the company, I remember the refs being over with him a long time during Batista's entrance and stuff like that, and I remember him looking out of it. And
he got beat up for a long time.
No, I know he did, but I thought when I didn't see him that Monday night before the story broke, the Monday Night Raw following the Rumble, I thought it was a concussion.
Yeah, you know, I know Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer. Did you listen to the Wrestling Observer show?
Today's one?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
It was kind of very cryptic. Basically, he sort of implied that Punk had indicated to the company that he was out because of health issues, and he was mocking that in this interview, and he talked about how there could be legal issues, which, personally, I just think this is one of those, yeah, right, Dave, whatever. But,
I don't think there will be legal issues.
But I think Punk in his mind is done. I think his mind he's done forever. So I think 3 years. And that's been since day one I've said I think he'll be gone for about 3 years. 3-4 years, like Batista. He'll come back. I mean, maybe he never will, and if he doesn't, you know, I'm very, very much sick of seeing Punk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was a great talent. I mean, Neil, you've seen me. How many CM Punk t-shirts do I own?
Loads.
You know, I love CM Punk, but I felt he was tired and stale as a character. I was just tired of his moaning. He had a great spot. He was earning great money. You know, his last pay-per-view before the Rumble, he beat the Shield 1-on-3.
That's correct, yeah.
He was booked really strong. He was the champion for 14 months. Okay, he was never, you know, the John Cena spot, but nobody is.
No, nobody is, and nobody will be. And it was clear even when Batista came back, and they had big plans for him, reclaiming his rightful place as babyface A to John Cena's babyface. The fact is that, you know, it didn't work with Batista, and they went a completely different opposite direction. CM Punk should have been very happy with what he accomplished. And my personal feelings about CM Punk, my somewhat bitterness towards the way in which he left, I can understand him being very hurt and stuff, but I bought the ticket to WrestleMania at the time, and I thought that in 2014, with Triple H having so much creative freedom, and this being even before Triple H, that a feud with CM Punk would have been absolutely gold on the mic. Okay, retrospectively, the Daniel Bryan story being the overriding theme of WrestleMania, it couldn't have gone better. But I was really looking forward to seeing CM Punk at WrestleMania 30, and with the idea of it being a Triple H feud. And I know for a fact I'm not the only one. Yeah. I just think he just could have stuck it out. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe we will find out a lot more about it when his podcast.
Is that actually happening?
Everyone seems to have come to the conclusion that
I don't want to hear that, man. I could just hear him bitching and moaning, and you know he's. You know,
one thing about the interview, Ken, he seemed in a ridiculously good mood.
Okay, well that's good, you know. I just remember on the DVD there was places on his DVD. There's places where he just comes across. You know, he's a lot like a Vince. You know what I mean? He really thinks a lot of himself, and it's his way or the highway. And sometimes that can be really grating.
Let's talk about Impact this week. It was taped in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Shall we first discuss the Russo story?
Okay.
So we can discuss the negative of TNA before the positive. So it came out this week that so Vince Russo sends an email, and I guess he typed in M in his address bar, and you know just selected the first name. It was meant to be addressed to Mike Tenay. It was sent to Mike Johnson of PWInsider.com.
Mike Tenay, for those of you who don't watch TNA, is obviously TNA's main commentator.
Yeah. So there had long been suspicions, and it had long been reported by the insider wrestling news sites that Vince Russo was back on the payroll of TNA. TNA had denied this on their part because both their Japanese wrestling partner Wrestle One and their television partner Spike TV did not want him to have anything to do with the product, which I think speaks such volumes about him. But regardless, so when he sent the email to Mike Johnson let it be known, and so Russo at first tried to claim that it was a swerve and that he had purposely sent an email to Mike Johnson to see if he would think that it was an accident and, you know, publish it and publicise the story, and tried to make a fool out of Mike Johnson. And then when it was very apparent no one was buying it and TNA told him to, he apologised, and he also stated TNA had asked him to keep their relationship secret. It's just such a gigantic black eye on the company, primarily because they're lying to their wrestlers, their television partners, their business partners. But I think it's even more embarrassing because Vince Russo, and I'm just gonna, you know, I have a podcast now. We have a podcast now, so I have, you know, the place to vent.
He's a platform.
He is a fucking idiot.
He is not
He's
good
a
at his
fucking
job.
clown.
No.
Okay, he is just. Did you listen to him on the Steve Austin show?
That was the only Steve Austin show that had anything to do with professional wrestling. I skipped out.
Okay, I listened to the entire thing. And he came across like and you know, pardon my extreme French here, like a delusional cunt. And I, quite frankly, would rather never hear his voice again. And he's just, he is a cancer on the wrestling industry, and he has been since day one. When I watch a lot of classic wrestling, which I do, I think the booking style that he brought in has caused a lot of the things that I personally and a lot of people don't particularly like about wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
In modern times. And you can't get rid of this guy. You know what I mean? He's writing What Culture articles, begging for his job back. You know, he's causing TNA havoc.
I think there might be an issue here with TNA. I think there might be something. I think there might be something more than we even know here. Like, why does Dixie Carter feel the need to constantly have him on the books? I think there might be something going on between the two of them, or something like that. You have to read into this way, and I think Surge should do what he did to AJ Styles at the time.
I agree with
and
that.
knock Vince out, give him one clean on the chin.
This is actually something I wanted to talk about. Did you see? Have you seen much of AJ Styles stuff in TNA?
In TNA?
No, in New Japan.
I haven't seen a schlitter.
Okay. For WWE to refuse to take this guy...
I knew that anyway.
Oh my god.
I knew that anyway.
This guy, to me, in the past 18 months, has been the best wrestler in the world.
He's incredible. I said this to our friend Sean, who'll be on the show in a few weeks, and why Vince? Yeah, no, I think he's the best. I think he's the biggest free agent in the wrestling business when he was free agent. Excuse me.
You know, and it's just such arrogance and idiocy. You know, it's just bad judgment talent. When you have, well, we'll talk about Waylon Mercy and his bad matches later on. But Impact from the Hammerstein Ballroom, the I don't know the name of the actual room they were in, but the same building as Monday Night Raw emanated from in 1993.
Yeah,
aired at last. I think it was taped about 3-4 weeks ago.
So this was the first week that the New York tapings had aired.
Yeah, June 26th.
Okay,
this was taped. This was the first night. It was the only night that didn't sell out. And I mean, it was a good, fun show. And I think anytime you get wrestling in a small arena with passionate fans, and this reminds me of NXT,
sure,
it just makes for an entertaining show, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought, you know, there's been a lot of differing opinions about whether or not TNA was smart to capitalise on the kind of the hardcore ECW fan base that, you know, for God knows what reason is still thumping that ECW Bible 13 years later, by kind of having the show open and having Tommy Dreamer reference the invasion of Raw in 1987, all that sort of stuff. But for me, it got the crowd on side. And they had promos by Bully Ray and Taz in the first 5 minutes of the show. They got a huge reaction, which made the company come across more Major League on TV.
Yeah.
And it got the crowd on side, so they weren't... Because I was worried that these 1,000 people were showing up to shit on the company, you know.
Yeah.
They booked a very smart show. Kurt Angle emphasised that the show was going to be about wrestling, and then they put on this gauntlet match, which this is what I think, and I've always thought they should do when they have these battle royals for championships. You have a battle royal, and then when it gets to your last two, you have a wrestling match.
Okay.
And this is what WWE did in 1993 when Razor Ramon won the Intercontinental title after Shawn Michaels vacated it.
Yes.
They had a battle royal and all that. Him and Rick Martel were the last two, and he won it.
I remember this.
And it just makes for a really, really fun match. You had some really good spots, and then you had a great little 4 or 5 minutes between Seiya Sanada and Austin Aries. You had a really good, strong main event between Bobby Lashley, who was the best booked champion in pro wrestling in a long time. He just wins his matches. What a novel concept. And did you see Jeff Hardy's high spot?
No. Wait a minute. Was this
God.
something onto steps or something?
He did a senton off the top rope to the steps on the floor.
Or was it ridiculously stupid?
Well, they had, like, you know the top of the steps, the flat part?
Yeah.
They had, like, I don't know, it was... They had a sheet, I don't know if it was wood, if it was like the mat or what it was, but it was painted to look like the steps,
Okay.
but it was on top of it, so it was a very, very, very slight, probably padding, but it was an awesome, awesome looking spot, and it was a really good match.
So this was what, the Hardys against... Oh no, that's next week.
Just Hardy versus Lashley for the championship.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Lashley.
No, I think I will check that show out. Had Snitsky and
no, there's to come.
Okay, that's going to be... do you know what? I think maybe watching the 4 of those back-to-back would be something I might do when they've all gone to air. Wade
That's
Keller...
probably good. There's 6 of them, actually.
Sure. Wade Keller of Pro
I got involved
Torch.
in this. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, let me explain to everybody. The Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Torch was criticising TNA for the opening segment that featured a lot of past ECW stars. And Taz was the one who took exception to it. They had a back and forth on Twitter. Now, from what I saw, I kind of agreed with Wade Keller's points, but I thought that Taz came across really nice, unlike Wade Keller.
Yeah, he did. Well, that's because Taz is really nice, unlike Wade Keller. Yeah.
So, how what's your involvement basically in this? Wade Keller was saying that in 2014, nostalgia has no place at the start of ECW. Nostalgia has no place in the part of a national American wrestling program, and he was saying that if they needed to do this to get the fans on side, they could have done it off camera before the event was recorded. Various other things like that. Taz was basically just saying all that he cared about was the fact that it had a great reaction in the building, which is undeniable, but at the same time, the last time I saw EV 2.0 or whatever in TNA, I thought it was cringeworthy.
That was horrible.
That was 3 years ago. So
right.
Tell me about your involvement.
So they went back and forth for a long while before Keller made a point about how Taz's contract probably had been cut recently. You know, his wages had been cut back, which was just
that's why I stopped
that
reading.
was so. I mean, why you know what I mean? If you want to have Taz was having an adult discussion, and this was like Wade's kind of little dig. Wade is like that. He's a little bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I watched the show, I tweeted wow, and I tagged Wade Keller and Taz. Wow, Wade Keller was out to lunch about this week's Impact. Thought it was a great show, and I also tagged Taz in it. So Taz then replied to me and Wade, just a suggestion, Wade, maybe next time let the 2-hour show evolve instead of just judging it on segment 1. And he said, my point is that after 12 years, TNA shouldn't think ECW 97 nostalgia as plan A. They should aspire higher. And but then other people just started getting in on Wade, and he just said, in total I've made one comment on the opening segment, the rest is others projecting things I didn't say. It's, to be fair, that probably is, there's probably some truth in that, but he is he's just a douche. He's
a very childish man.
He's an awful human being. So
in general,
yeah.
Maybe not in general, but as a wrestling reporter, he's very condescending. He's very that must be him. Okay, so just before we finish up the news segment, I've got 2 funny things, and I don't know if you I know there's at least one that you probably didn't see. The first is, and these are littered all over the network, so this network's been planned for so long that when they're doing the original shows, there's loads of these talking heads that have been filmed over the years. There's lots of cursing on the network. People don't really know about this. There's a bookload. People are very, very candid. And there's some things that are kept in, and they're so quick, you kind of have to really... And my guard was down because I was watching just a complete throwaway show time in the background as I was falling asleep. It was WWE Countdown, Top 10 Infamous Returns. And so my brain was...
I watched that show.
Okay, tell me this. When they were covering the Chris Jericho segment...
It's the Return in 2007.
Yeah, Terrible Return in 2007. And I was talking about his in-ring promo.
We watched together, I believe.
Did we?
I took the day off work the next day.
Well, then maybe
the day after Survivor Series.
Do we get a Fritz von Erich Memorial?
Yeah, it's just thing with that. I was driving past that the other day.
Well, then we may have. But yeah, so he... they were talking about the Randy Orton, Chris Jericho 2007 return, and Randy's champion in the ring. And Antonio Cesaro says, Chris did the right thing when he came back, as in going after the main dog. It's like when you go to prison and shank the head of the gang. Oh, can I say that? And it cut off. Do you not remember this? And then it starts talking about a man being shanked in jail.
I remember that, yeah.
Incredible.
It's great.
The second thing was, do you subscribe on Facebook to Kayfabe News?
No.
You need to. So Kayfabe News is just, it's a facetious wrestling news source, basically. And they just have all these great lines like, like the day of the cuts, for instance. What they reported was Vince McMahon cut by WWE. Just like, it's really, really, really fun, silly stuff. But one of their better ones was retweeted by J.R., who said he hoped it wasn't true. He obviously didn't. He maybe thought it came from kayfabe commentaries instead of kayfabe wrestling news. And what they put out was that Wade Barrett to represent WWE for Make-A-Wish delivering bad news. so Jim Ross saw this, and he retweeted that he was frightful of this being real. So they were the two things that caught my eye on the internet this week in terms of little fun bits. But we'll get to WWE Battleground, which took place on Sunday night. Did you see the pre-show?
I didn't watch the pre-show, no.
Okay, that's fine. Quick results. Fandango and Adam Rose had Adam Rose go over in 1 minute. They had Layla and Summer Rae coming out with the rosebuds, and Layla was wearing... All I'm saying is when they went around the ring doing the song at the end, it was like they were bouncing from her chin to her waistline. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. It was out fucking rage.
So I should watch this pre-show right now.
You probably should. So Adam Rose, I know that it's still Fandango, but I'm surprised that he's even getting wins. I thought they'd really given up on him. The second match was the advertised match. And
given that Fandango got beaten by Zack Ryder, I think Fandango is the ultimate low man in the totem pole now.
That's very fair. Cameron and Naomi, the Funkadactyls, had their huge blow off, and it was a very, very, very poor match. Cameron just...
Did you say a huge blow off?
Well, it's in the sense that they've been a team for ages. This
deserves a huge blow off.
What I mean is they've been a team for so long, and what they give them is their first match on a pre-show. You know what I'm saying? Did you watch it recorded, or did you watch it on the network?
I watched it on the network, yeah.
Okay, I watched it live on the network, and I had a lot of issues.
Did you?
Yeah. So what was happening?
Bother risking it.
I was sitting down and I was playing the Xbox, right? So I had it on my laptop for the pre-show.
Okay.
It was all going fine, and my idea was for the actual show I would just switch over to the TV. Xbox, and when I put on the Xbox, what did they give me?
What's that?
Battleground from last year.
Really?
It just kept playing Battleground from last year.
That's very, very strange.
Very, very strange.
All the things that I've heard of, I've never heard that.
I know. And what I had to do is I kept pressing stop, going in and out of the application, going to live now, when we say Battleground 2014, clicking on it. And it wasn't until at the very bottom of the screen where you've got the fast forward, rewind, stop, pause, blah, 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 where there's actually a little live button. Not until I clicked that did it actually go to the
live.
Really, really strange. I've never had an issue like that before, but anyway, in terms of people complaining, there was still a huge volume of people who had issues streaming it live on the network. So the first match on the actual show itself was the best match on the show.
Before we jump in,
yeah, of course.
What do you think of the network at the moment in terms of what's on it, how the usability, all that kind of stuff?
I really like it. The only thing that I'm down on about the network currently is that there was I know that they had certain things planned that they now cut back on, and that upsets me.
Are you talking about the Legends House and Tough Enough, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I was excited about all that stuff coming. I just basically know that the network I signed up for is not happening. It's not going to... Like, the network that I signed up for and that I heard, this is the plan for programming over the next few months, that I'm not getting. And that is... when you don't have what you've been promised, you have a certain way of thinking about things. If those two shows had never been proposed, and this was the network that I just bought with no other inhibitions about something being added, I'd be really happy. But it's just because I did want to see maybe a Tough Enough with Austin and a Legend House of Ric Flair.
I like it generally, but I find that the actual functionality of it can be a bit funky sometimes.
What do you use it on?
A PlayStation 3.
Okay.
I did use it on an Xbox, but I got rid of the Xbox. It just wasn't functioning great for me on that. Particularly two things. Do you use Netflix?
No.
Okay. Netflix, the first thing you see in Netflix is you recently watched. And this is a huge... I don't know why there's no recently watched. I go in... I've been watching every single WCW show in order. Clash of the Champions, then pay-per-view. Clash of the Champions, pay-per-view. And so every time... Say I was watching Wrestle War... Every time I want to go to... Say I'm watching half an hour of it, then I go off, I go about my day, and I come back to it that night. If I want to go back to Wrestle War, I have to go to pay-per-views, WCW, scroll all the way to the right, find Wrestle War, select the year, find the show, put the show on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So that's one thing that irritates me, whereas, in Netflix, whatever you were last watching, if you pause it, you just go back in, turn it back on. The other thing is, the way they have little channel markers for, like, starts and ends of matches?
Yeah. I don't think they have that on the video games apps, do they?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they have on the Xbox, but
That's it.
they took a lot of stuff down to take music out and stuff, and particularly WCW stuff from the early 90s, which is what I'm watching. And when they put it all back up, there are no channel markers, there's no start and end of matches, because it was handy for me to scroll through and see what matches were on the show without having to go to the internet, because it's almost hard to find a match listing without a results listing on the internet, you know what I mean? Because I'm watching these shows and it's basically like I've never seen it before,
Maybe I misunderstood what you were asking, because when you were asking my issues, I thought you just kind of meant content.
Well, I mean, it's both, because in terms of content for me...
I've another problem with the interface, that if you log on your laptop or your PC, you can use the actual WWE.com search function. You know the way they've got everybody who's ever been in WWE. If you type in, like, I'm trying to think of a jobber that wasn't ever on a WrestleMania. For some reason, SD Jones is just he was on a pay-per-view. Anyway, no matter who you type in, they still have a little bio. So what happens is, if you log into the network on your computer, if you search for a match, so you just type in Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. If you're signed into network, every single match comes up individually. You can't do that on Xbox or PS3.
You can search their names, but it doesn't find nearly.
Yeah, that I find really annoying. Because that's brilliant. I'd love to be able to search for individual matches. I'd love to be like, I want to see every single Hulk Hogan Ric Flair match that they have on the network right now. Which one haven't I seen? Is there a Madison Square Garden house show match that I haven't seen? Whatever, you know what I mean? So, okay.
There's issues. It's still, for the price it is, it's still very good value. If you have interest A in the modern pay-per-views and B in the library. The library is what I'm interested in more so.
Yeah, well, I would watch the pay-per-views anyway, and I would never really stream pay-per-views because I don't like things cutting out. So I would order on Sky Box Office. So for me, the network is a steal, and it can go.
I would have just downloaded them. I would never watch the live, so I was just downloading for free.
See, I have gatherings.
I see. Okay.
So there you go. So for me, the network
is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm too old for that.
No, for me, the network is an absolute steal still. Okay, but this show, however, it didn't deliver the way that past pay-per-views have. The first match was the best, and that was the 2 out 3 falls match between the Wyatts, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, against the Usos. A lot of people thought that the titles were going to switch hands here. The first 2 falls were pretty formulaic, and then the third fall was just magnificent. It actually set too high of a standard for the show, and they were kicked out of basically every single finish that the other team had, and we had the Usos going over with a double splash, as in both Jimmy and Jay splashing Eric Rowan. Did you enjoy this match?
Yes, I thought a few thoughts on this match. Firstly, it's been said to death elsewhere, but I watching it, I just couldn't help but feel there was no point in them doing 3 falls, because the first fall you had one of the Usos getting pinned by a big boot. You know what I mean? This isn't 1985. And then the second fall was just a roll up, which was just weak, and it's just purposeless. I mean, I suppose it adds a little bit of story, but unless you can give guys 25-30 minutes, there's no point in 3 fall matches.
They've actually been, for a long time, very weak at doing multiple fall matches.
I remember they did a Dolph Ziggler Rey Mysterio match in 11 minutes with 3 falls. What's the point?
The only one that stands out to me was the Brock Angle Iron Man match. All the finishes in that match seemed like they made sense. Like the Triple H Rock Iron Man match, you had pinfalls from DDTs and rock bombs through the table. Maybe rock bombs through the table is fair, but I remember being very dubious just to get the numbers up, because you remember at the time that was only the second
6-5 in the end,
It was exactly, but they wanted to have the complete opposite from the Nil All Brett Shawn.
But anyway, on this match, they did some spectacular stuff. They had a spot where the Ginger Wyatt did a double suplex on the Usos. Rowan, I know his name, but he's very generic to me. He suplexed both Usos off the top, which was quite impressive.
Sure.
I kind of felt and I kind of wanted the Usos to win, even though I think the general populace wanted the Wyatts to get the championships. You could tell, because when the Usos went up for their double splash, you could hear the boos, because everyone knew, this is the finish. But in terms of the match, I thought this was 4 stars. I thought this was the match of the night.
Yeah, there's
Did you go that far?
3 3/4, just to be controversial. Now listen, I completely agree with you though that it was match of the night, but I did want the Wyatts to win, because I think I don't understand how the backstage segments with Goldust and Cody are still getting these really big reactions from the crowd, and I just think time is running out, and you need to put them in a feud with a heel tag team.
Yeah, they wouldn't fit a feud with the Wyatts though.
Do you not think so?
No, it's an awful. They're too. They're very out there, and I think you'd need like I don't say Ryback because obviously Ryback will have no credibility, but normal people for them to play off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So the next segment,
I think the reason that they kept it is because the Usos are going to feud with the New Nation, which we'll get to later on.
Yeah,
but I like keeping on the Usos. I just don't, the Wyatts or whatever.
That's very interesting about the New Nation, actually. I don't even know if they're going to be healed. Yeah, we'll get to that later on.
So they will.
The second segment, we had Seth Rollins cutting a promo backstage and complaining about Dean Ambrose. This was really where the show
fell off a cliff.
I don't want to say fell off a cliff, but this really changed the dynamic of it. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose was clearly the most anticipated match on the show because it was the first time ever meeting. Yeah. It was obviously more so anticipated than Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho because of the build-up. The literal close to 2 year build-up for this match. And they had Dean Ambrose attack Seth backstage and Triple H eject him from the building.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there going, they can't really not do the match, can they? And as the show progressed, you could see they really are going to not do this match. I think there's an argument that because it's not really pay-per-view anymore, you maybe have less pressure to deliver what you've advertised. But I think for the people in the arena, it's a letdown. This was the show. This was the match. I think that was going to tie the show together because if the main event was was good enough and the opener was really good. I thought the Battle Royal was great. Was a very good as Battle Royals go. So if this was your 3 3/4 4-star match, then it's a really good show. But it being taken off, A, you're taking away that match, and B, you're adding a sour taste to the mouth. So it really took the show down, It was almost like, it was like Austin at Survivor Series 99 getting run over. It was like...
It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
No, that's a very similar analogy. Very rarely on their pay-per-views do they do stuff like this. But this, with the ideas you said of the network and it not quite being a pay-per-view anymore. Speaking of which, that term is now back.
Pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I don't get it either, because you were completely right. Raw last week, there wasn't one mention of it. And next up we had the Divas title rematch between AJ Lee and Paige. They're going into the match with the story that they were friends, but they respected or they were enemies, but they respected each other, and they were tagging and whatnot. And this match, for all the great shakes about Paige because she started so young and so on and so forth, I don't know if the occasion has gotten to her on several times, but I don't think she's been great shakes in the ring. They didn't gel together at all. There was quite a few mistimed spots, and it was a mess.
Yeah, bad match.
Really bad match.
Yeah.
Obviously more from them on Monday Night Raw. The next match was
AJ Lee won.
AJ Lee won to retain the title.
Flying Wizard? Shining Wizard.
A Shining Wizard. The next match was Rusev against Jack Swagger. Now this match was obviously felt like it was a really big...
Can I just correct you there?
Yeah.
Rusev against Jackie Swagger.
Sorry, excuse me, against young Jackie Swagger. Yeah. This match felt really big on Raw last week. It got a huge reaction when they did the in-ring debate. But obviously with the Malaysian airline plane and being shot down in Ukraine and stuff like that, people were really wondering what they do. And what they did was they alluded to the idea that Russia is getting unfairly criticised for... What was the exact
recent
events? Recent events. So basically, they completely and utterly alluded to it, and that I don't know if that's what killed the crowd. I'd say it hurt the crowd, but not the majority of it. I'm sure some people picked up.
Yeah, people. And again, I've heard this said elsewhere as well. People don't go to wrestling shows to be reminded of stuff like that. That's why when you do, big shows, father having cancer or Terry Reynolds having a miscarriage and things like that, it just goes over people because it's not what you're there for, you know what I mean?
Well, I did care about the Big Show because when he was wearing that full leather outfit at his dad's funeral, and then the boss man put the casket and attached the trailer, I cared then. But so that was very, very strange. And the match itself, dare I say, didn't come close to the Big E Rusev pay-per-view matches of the last few months.
No, it wasn't much.
They told the story basically that Swagger just couldn't get it together until he went outside the ring. I was expecting the slap from Zeb that we get now and again to Jack Swagger to kind of get him out. Anyway, it didn't happen. He came back in though, and he pretty much ran the show for about 6 or 7 minutes before they did a finish, which was him having Rusev in the ankle lock on the outside the ring. Rusev rolled out, looked like it was about to be over, but he rolled out. Swagger straight into the post. Rusev bet the count, then threw a knocked out, supposedly Jack Swagger into the ring for the accolade. This very clearly looked like they were setting up the rematch for SummerSlam. I hoped to God it was going to be a flag match like you had. But we don't know now if that's happening.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. They kind of moved away from it on Raw.
It wasn't a great match.
Nah, it wasn't much. Yeah, I just don't think Rusev rather is great. I see the thing is, I think Rusev's at his peak right now. I don't think there's any higher he can go. I don't think it's a main event gimmick. And I think
I completely agree.
With a very short shelf life, you know what I mean?
That's what I was looking forward to, the idea of them getting mileage out of Jack Swagger, because I don't think they thought they were going to get it. And when he eventually goes against Cena or Reigns or whoever he's going to go with and have his first loss, then that's as far as he'll go.
The problem with the nationalistic gimmick, particularly now, is just, you know, it's one dimensional, and once you blow the guy off, you can't really heat him back up based on nationality again. And what else does he really have? You know, his look is very bland, generic. I don't think he's a good look. He had better look in NXT, to be honest with you.
I think he's impressive proportions. I think if he's a bit taller, it would really help. But there's moments where you're like, you know, he's an interesting bit.
He could be a guy on the card, but I don't see him having any upward mobility past a certain point, you know.
Yeah, he saw the ankle lock great, which I really like, because he doesn't wear boots. So he should sell it more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I doubt that's what they were thinking, but I thought it was great. So next up we had Seth coming out demanding that he had his arm raised via forfeit because Dean Ambrose wasn't going to show up. They actually did this pretty cleverly in the sense they got good heat on Seth for it. They announced him as the winner. They cut back to the commentators to give you the impression it was all over. And then you had Dean Ambrose coming out of nowhere. They brawled for a long time. They love sending the agents out for Dean Ambrose. I really think they've got a Steve Austin character here, and I think they're starting to cop it.
Yeah,
they're giving him little bits and pieces, and there's something they gave him at the end of the show which was very reminiscent of like an Attitude Era Steve Austin thing.
True, yeah.
But they had the agents come out, the refs come out, Trips coming out, doing anything to break it up, and they got out about 3 or 4 times before Dean supposedly officially got thrown out of the building. The next actual match was Chris Jericho against Bray Wyatt, and this had an interesting build up. We had the first ever boring chance of Bray Wyatt last week on Raw. I don't know if it's just because it's been weird coming out of the Cena feud. He seemed that he had a lot of momentum as somebody who was very popular with the crowd. Maybe the idea with Jericho coming back, Jericho's kind of been untouchable recently when he's come back as a face. Nobody seems to have any issue with Jericho. People are very happy to cheer him. Maybe that's why they wanted to do the feud. Also, it did seem that it was something Jericho asked to do, or was very happy to. It was a writer that pitched it. Sorry, Jericho mentioned on his podcast. He was very happy to do it. But I don't know what this is going to do for either of them. The match itself really seemed just not to Chris Jericho's usual level for pay-per-view. Now, I haven't said that it was his first pay-per-view match back, but we found out today, courtesy of The Observer, that it was decided pretty late on Sunday that Jericho was to...
well, actually, he said it wasn't late, but it was on Sunday.
Sure. So what do you think of the match, and what do you think Jericho going over?
I just think that Bray Wyatt had great vignettes to introduce him. They really captured the public's imagination. He has a great entrance, and he is very charismatic. He has great delivery. The problem comes that the gimmick it's just too much of a gimmick, and he just talks, and he doesn't really say anything. And I think people are just beginning to kind of watch his promos and just zone out because they know he's just going to talk for 5 minutes and not really say anything like he did on Raw. But the bigger issue comes when he gets in the ring. I mean, I remember his match with Roman Reigns as a big red flag, sort of January, February time.
Yeah.
You know, these two were the hottest members of their respective groups, and the groups with the hottest thing in the company, and their match just died. He just had no heat. And another red flag, a big one, came at WrestleMania when I just thought that match was the shits. It was just
really good.
Bad match.
I swear I thought it was really good.
I think there was a good vibe live, so maybe that helped.
I mean when I watched it back. I talked about this. Yeah, I think the Bray's 2 best matches by leaps and bounds, singles matches, were his Rumble match against Bryan and his WrestleMania match against Cena.
Okay, because I thought his best match was his third match with Cena, the one that Dave talked about as a match of the year, the Last Man Standing.
Oh jeez, I can believe that was
incredible. But other than that, I thought his
Cena's very good at having Last Man Standing matches.
Yes, he is. I thought his other match, his cage match with Cena, was the shits as well. So for me, I think, and this was just he's just no good in the ring. It's just, you know, people want to see this in him. It's just not there. It's just, you know, when he's in if he's in there with Daniel Bryan, he can be carried. If he's got a lot of bells and whistles.
With Chris Jericho though.
Yeah, but that's the fact that Jericho couldn't carry him says a lot.
He'll have 2 more chances by
yeah, and they'll get a decent match out of him in the end. But he just is not really all that to me. I think he's somebody who in the 80s would have made a great manager. But you know, you have to try and make a wrestler out of him. And I just think, you know, he has a great entrance. He's great charisma, but that's all. You know, I just think he's. You know, people look for a lot from him that just isn't there.
Okay, next up we had the Battle Royal for the vacant IC title. Everybody made their entrance. This felt like a show they were really short on time.
Well, because they got rid of the match, they probably had budgeted for 20 minutes.
Exactly. We had Barrett then come out and telling the future winner of the Intercontinental Championship that he had some bad news upon his return.
I think Barrett has to be babyface in returns, although they didn't go that direction here because they kind of had him in South Florida. But
I wouldn't know. Maybe. I don't know. He'll definitely get that pop when he comes back.
He is borderline babyface already, but anyway.
Kind of, yeah. And this was a fair Battle Royal, no great shakes. The last few minutes with Dolph and Sheamus had great heat, but they were fucking up things left, right and centre as well.
Kofi had great spots with Cesaro.
Yes, Kofi had a spot with Cesaro where he was on the apron. Big E had been eliminated.
No, I was talking before that. He was like backdropped over Cesaro, held on to him, like did a skin the cat only on Cesaro's body.
Oh, right.
He held on.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, he held on. He was like basically hanging like he would from the ropes, only from Cesaro's midsection after being kind of backdropped, and pulled himself back up around and into the ring over Cesaro. It was fantastic. And then he did later a spot kind of like the way Torito jumps off the ropes onto Diego's shoulders or whatever.
Yeah.
He came off the apron onto Big E's shoulders. Then Cesaro kind of suplexed him off Big E's shoulders back into the ring. And I always I thought this was the perfect time to have him win one, because they always give him these shine spots in Battle Royals, but if you're never going to have him win one, you know, I heard Cole talking about how he always stars in Battle Royals, but it's like, if this were real, he just avoids elimination but eventually gets eliminated. It's like when you hear them say Kane's been in 10 Money in the Bank matches or 5 Elimination Chambers, and
he's
it's like,
never won one.
Yeah, well,
no, I agree with. He did, yeah. No, I agree with you in that respect, but maybe they felt Kofi didn't need it because of what they were giving him the next night.
Well, they were never going to give it to him anyway. But the finish, I thought everybody in the arena was too savvy to the fact that The Miz was going to come in and win the match.
Yeah, Miz had been hiding for the duration of the match, a la Jerry Lawler in Royal Rumble 96.
Yeah.
And
he did that in Battle Royal and Superstars in 95 as well.
Oh, is that where it first came from?
Yeah, so Miz and Sheamus, or not Miz and Sheamus, Sheamus and Ziggler had this great back and forth. The crowd is so desperate to get behind Ziggler, and
they are behind Ziggler. It's not like they're desperate for the company to get behind Ziggler. Yeah, and it's going to keep going.
Yeah, and he could end up being kind of a Daniel Bryan on a lower level, but they won't give him a chance to talk, so he won't get that far. But they had good heat here. They did mess up, I think, 3 spots, and you could see people in the front row kind of going, "Oh God," because you didn't talk.
Really strange.
Yeah. Finish was I can't remember.
The finish was Sheamus was on the outside, and he went. They basically were kind of flirting around the apron for a long time. Dolph was in the ring, Sheamus on the outside. He went for his slingshot shoulder block, and as he came up like a sperm whale coming out of the water, Dolph got him with the super kick. Sheamus went flying, and then he had Miz come in from behind and dump Dolph to become the new Intercontinental Champion. It's a perfect spot for Miz, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I said last week, I think if you give him some booking credibility, which obviously they didn't do the next day, he can be a strong underneath heel. But I the reason I say that is not because I love the Miz, but because if you're not going to use him there, don't use him at all, because there's no point. I always think if you have somebody who was a main eventer at WrestleMania and you have him in openers, you devalue being in the main event of WrestleMania. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. But then again, it is the Miz.
It is the Miz, but I just think it's a good spot for him. I thought he came out in Raw and he looked the part, you know.
With his wife?
With his wife.
Came out to lose to Dolph Ziggler.
He did a good match though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's talk about the main events, the last thing we have on the show. First thing, I told you last week that they weren't getting rid of the belt, and they're not getting rid of the belt.
Yeah, but to be fair, PW Insider had reported it, and PW Insider are normally quite reliable.
Look, I just didn't see it. Every single graphic they showed on SmackDown, on main event, everything still had the belt in it.
Okay.
So I don't know how serious they came to actually getting rid of it.
Well, actually what PW Insider reported was, because they're getting the network logo is going to be the new logo.
That's right.
That there's only one championship and with that logo, and they were under the impression that this was it being written off. So I guess it's possible that it will be written off, but this just wasn't it.
Like, I really, really think I've seen Ric Flair enough to know that I think that was just a spirit of the moment thing. His reaction seems too natural. As that was why I thought so. More than any actual reason about the belt or any consideration about the belt, I just thought Flair gave away the idea that it was. But then again, why would they have to clue Flair in on it? Maybe not. So we had Cena against Roman Reigns, Kane and Randy Orton. What we didn't mention was earlier on the show they had a great segment with Randy Orton and Kane where Randy Orton was running around the back searching for Kane. The red lights everywhere was a good giveaway that he was at least getting warned to Kane's whereabouts. But he still felt, even though that there was a worldwide TV audience and a camera sticking in his face, that he had to whisper for Kane. Now, why would he have to whisper?
When we talk about these things, Neil and I had a very frank conversation before the show went on about my sometimes distaste for modern pro wrestling, and this is why, I can't actually watch this stuff. It's just garbage to me,
The fact was Randy, I thought, made it very entertaining.
Yeah, I'd rather watch, my daughter was watching Sesame Street beforehand. It was more intelligent adult viewing than this.
I'd say surely Sesame Street's the longest running weekly episodic television.
Yeah, and Netflix, you don't have Netflix, but anyone who does will know. It says when you go to a TV show, it says like 3 series, 21 episodes. It tells you how many episodes, how many series.
Sure.
Most is between sort of 1 and 10 series. You see 37 series and like 5,000 episodes. You can go all the way back and watch like 70 Sesame Street.
There you go. Alright, so we had John Cena retaining, which we all...
Netflix, by the way, just like the WWE Network, but better.
That only lasted 1 week, that tagline.
It was stupid.
It's
not like Netflix.
It's for
pro wrestling.
Oh, I just can't deal with it.
Oh God.
Okay, so look, John Cena...
Push that's better than Netflix, Cole. Push it.
Yeah, that movie flicks, yeah. So,
goddamn net movie.
So we had Cena retaining after the exact same finish kind of before in the Money in the Bank where he RKO's Orton on Kane.
This match,
I actually thought that this match was very good the last 15 minutes, and I thought people didn't give it a fair shout.
Yeah, I thought it was closing in on 4 stars, maybe 3 3/4. Yeah. However, it was very paint by the numbers. That they did all these spots. They did the spot where there are 2 submission holds on a dude. And he's about to tap out, and Cole's like, "Who wins the title if he taps?" We've seen this twice now. Remember when Orton tapped to, and they vacated the title and all that stuff? And they did it with Benoit and Triple H. Yeah, and so I'm just...
Benoit, Edge and Triple H.
Okay, yeah, it was. And then they also did, later on in the match, the bit where someone's about to tap out and somebody blocks the hand.
Oh, like the WrestleMania 20 main event?
Yeah, where, like, obviously, you can't just say to the referee, "I give up."
That spot has never looked good. I think it looks so phony.
It does, yeah.
It looks shite.
Yeah, because if you're really tapping, you're not like slowly dropping your hand.
Oh, fuck. It's ridiculous.
But yeah, and then they did, it did become a little bit paint by numbers. They were doing all there. Someone does a finish, someone else does a save. It was a bit. If this was on an ROH show, WWE would be like, "Oh, look at this. It's just a high spot fest." But anyway, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it.
As far as I thought it would be.
By the way, I'm going to say this every week until something changes. Roman Reigns gear, I mean, what the fuck?
Now, he had actually altered it slightly.
It looks worse.
It's worse. Yeah. Instead of the white trim,
it's got like camo trim.
It's got like deep kind of gold trim.
I don't mind it on the top. It's on the
that's it. No, you're absolutely right. The top is absolutely perfectly acceptable. Do you know what? I want to say this. This is something about Roman Reigns.
And by the way, they shouldn't have changed the music. The music was fine. It didn't need to.
What have they done to it?
It's just it's the Shield music only for Roman Reigns.
For me, I think that the fact that Ambrose and Rollins are getting more mic time than Reigns, and the fact that they have new presentation, unlike Reigns,
it helps them. Yeah.
I actually think that it makes me feel Reigns is so much more stale than the other two, even though Reigns is in the main event.
Yeah,
and I don't think he's going to come back and bite him in the ass. And I think Dean Ambrose is going to be the mainstay of all.
See, I just think because of his look and because they want to be behind. I mean, just look at Zack Ryder. He won a match on Raw and there was just shock. And this is a guy who was legitimately over. You remember this? The night that The Rock returned to wrestling.
Yeah.
The crowd were chanting, "We want Ryder" when The Rock was doing Celebration after the match. And,
I think he's only in cities on the East Coast, by the way. Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Really?
Yeah, he was over, Neil.
Oh, I don't know.
You want to change history? That's fine.
No. I just don't know.
There was a period of time they sold a shitload of Zack Ryder merchandise, and you can't even buy any anymore. It's like, why They just cut the legs off because that wasn't in their plans.
Okay.
It was 90s WCW, and that's. I'm not saying that's what they'll do to Ambrose, because obviously they've got him relatively protected, but they want Reigns to be their guy, and I don't see WrestleMania next year. I don't see Ambrose being the main event. I see Reigns.
Well, I still think that Daniel Bryan is going to trouble his popularity when he returns, and I also think that having good matches is a lot more important now than it was a few years ago, and he's not even as good as Big Dave. So I just don't see it working for him. I really don't. And every week that goes by, I don't. Right, let's get into some. What would you give the event out of 5 stars there?
2 3/4.
Lovely. Okay.
3 to me is a good show, and it was just shy. But what do you think?
Just shy of a good show, sure. Okay. Definitely. Like, I didn't turn off going, ugh, but it's just they've maintained quite a standard this year, and it wasn't there. And having the match that I was most looking forward to taken away from me didn't help.
Yeah.
Okay, podcasts. Steve Austin had a few interesting podcasts. Today, as in the day we're recording this show, which is the 22nd, to break kayfabe, he had Ken Shamrock on, and this is a harrowing, horrible, emotional interview.
Really?
There's not one bit of MMA or wrestling talk. It's just Ken talking about his upbringing.
Wow.
And we all know that he had, like, obviously he was like,
Frank
and he was in the home and stuff, but like the story to get to the home is pretty vicious. And Austin doesn't really say much. Austin's just sitting there.
Really?
Yeah, it's rough.
It's in person, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like his in-person interviews.
As do I. But from last week we had a few really interesting things. Before part 2 with Dreamer, which is basically what we're going to speak about, I hope you heard this. Austin was asked how does he rate WWE's decision to sign Kenta?
Kenta Kobashi, hell of a worker, hell of a talent, but 47 years old. For those who don't know, there's where was he? Wrestle Run? No, he's Noah, isn't he?
Noah, yeah.
A Noah wrestler called Kenta. Kenta in all caps is how it's written, and he's been one of the top workers in the world for the last 5 or 6 years.
More?
He was the one who created the Go to Sleep, which was CM Punk's finish, and several kind of bit moves that you'd be familiar with from US guys. And when Steve heard this news, he thought they were talking about Kenta Kobashi, which
who retired last year.
Yes, and he went on about it for a couple. Did he address that on the next show?
Nope.
No, he has to address it at some point.
I really can't wait.
You know, he talked about it for a good minute or two.
He really gave it.
If ever there was justification for us to do a sample on the show, we should really sample that at some point.
Okay, I'll try my best to
that
see
was
if we
so
can get
funny.
at the end of this show.
Yeah, goddamn.
The hell worker of 49 years old. I shat myself. In fact, it was the very first thing that
because he obviously had looked up his age and everything. Yeah?
Oh, he knew he was going to address this topic, and boy, did he address this topic. Okay, so I don't know what you want to say about coming out of the Dreamer interview. This really became the Tommy Dreamer self-appreciation hour.
Okay, yeah. Firstly, his kind of delusion about every time he'd have an ECW title shot, he would do the best rating, and he actually crowed. He's like, I can't remember the champion's names. It will say me versus Christian 1.4, me versus Regal 1.3, me versus Kozlov 1.1. It's like, wow, you popped a 1.1, kid.
Yeah.
And talking about,
you knew that's what Steve Austin was thinking.
Yes, and talking about demanding he get more of a push to Vince, and you know how they got behind him. And if anyone remembers, in 2009 they gave him the championship for a brief period of
which
time.
I'd forgotten until he mentioned.
Had you? I really enjoyed that. If you remember correctly, Neil, I used to love the ECW TV show. And the same reasons I like Impact now, because it just existed in I like ECW. I like TNA at times now because it just exists in a vacuum. It doesn't matter in terms of nothing's there to draw money, so you can just enjoy it for what it is. You can relax about the booking. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, he won the championship in 2009, and then 3 months later he was back in the middle, and so that's why he left a year later. And he talked about how Vince tried to talk him out of it, and
I call bullshit on a few things he said.
Okay,
he told the story obviously about Sandman dying in a car, and then them getting Neil Alfonso to get the drugs, drop the drugs off while they drove Sandman to the hospital and dumped him there.
Yeah,
actually I believe that. What I don't believe is he said he signed a bid to fight The Undertaker at WrestleMania 19. Now, let me ask you something.
To be fair, it would have been a better match.
Hold on, against the Beast of Bongo Grove.
Yeah.
Or sorry, he was the tag team partner. Hold on, listen now. Am I right by saying so? TNA starts in 2001.
True.
Late.
True. So much
okay,
to do.
great. Even better. So are you telling me that Vince
6 months later,
wanted to sign a bid? Who I'm sure wasn't even there the first few episodes.
I don't really believe the story.
No. If
Maybe
he said
he pitched
WrestleMania
it?
22,
Maybe he pitched it, but I don't.
in 2003, Abyss.
No, I said maybe Dreamer pitched it to him, but
Not even 2003 though. I mean, he must. If this is any legs, so he couldn't have gotten that
well,
yet, right?
Abyss had a lot of time in Puerto Rico under the same gimmick.
Did he really?
Yes, yeah, and he was well known. So Abyss is no spring chicken. He would have been 28, 29 at that point. He's in his 40s now.
Okay.
So,
all right.
but no, it's still ridiculous. Does anyone really believe that? I mean, I think Dreamer probably pitched it. Vince was like, yeah, thank you for coming to me, Tommy. We'll certainly discuss this in the agents meeting. Blah, blah, blah. And then he's just like, God damn, fucking, when he left the room. One thing that was very uncomfortable was him talking about, these orgies taking place in his hotel room with like 4 or 5 wrestlers and 5 or 6 strippers. And he said, I wouldn't take part, I would just watch. And Steve was like, does your wife mind? And he was like, she knows it's the wrestling business. It's just like, this is so creepy and seedy and... just uncomfortable.
That definitely was a bit of a strange one.
Can I say something as well about Tommy Dreamer?
Throughout the 2 episodes, with his debauchery.
I have something very important to say about Tommy Dreamer.
Okay.
His gear on Impact was atrocious.
He had his Twitter handle.
He had a t-shirt with the House of Hardcore logo that was a little bit too tight and showed his his rolls to a certain extent on his stomach.
Yeah.
But he had these leather pants that were just awful. Okay.
Leather pants.
They're like leather pants, like that PVC kind of look, right?
Oh. Okay.
On one side there was like a stripe down the side, like you'd see on Bret Hart's old tights. That inside it had at the Tommy Dreamer, but on the other side there was just a giant Twitter like chicken or bird or whatever the fuck it is. What is the fucking Twitter bird on your pants? He says as he deafens the whole world. Oh god.
Right, let me see here. We had we also had Ken Shamrock saying that right now he'd be in the top 10% technique wise of fighters if he was in MMA.
Ken Shamrock's thing, he'll probably say this in the next Steve Austin show. He thinks Triple H is keeping him out of WWE, and that if we're up to Vince, he'd be there and he'd be main eventing at age 49, having not been there since 1999.
That's correct. Tell me about your thoughts on the second Kurt Angle interview.
Yeah.
By Jim Ross.
This was much more overt than the first part. Now, granted, they were recorded the same day. He basically pitched to get back in WWE, and it was almost desperate at times. He made a point to talk about how he could definitely pass any physical.
Yeah, they were very.
He could definitely, pass a drug test. It became a real love-in. They were talking about how Ross was talking about how you recruit someone, you recruit them for life, and. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think for any wrestling fan, I think it would be wonderful for Kurt to have a last run up north and for him to do another couple WrestleMania matches. But
I started thinking about it, and like, don't get me wrong, I've seen good Kurt Angle matches in TNA, and I like Kurt Angle.
If you look at the Mookie Ghana of WrestlingObserver.com fame, went through his matches, and he's had better matches in TNA than WWE.
He's been there longer.
Yeah, not by much, but he's had some incredible matches. It is such a shame that a lot of them are underappreciated. I do look forward to the day when WWE owns that library. They can kind of put a lot of them out there.
Absolutely, but when I started thinking about the idea of Kurt Angle coming back and just actually being able to perform to any level, and just WWE looking after him and him having the machine behind him and it not being TNA, I think Kurt Angle would be my favourite wrestler if he came back.
Of course, yeah.
I think he'd be fucking incredible. Okay, Monday Night Raw took place live from Miami, the hometown of The Rock. Rock's mother was there, he was not.
Ada.
Hunter came out and this was wacky. It was funny. I enjoyed it. He came out and he basically started complaining that he was really, really, really angry that the belt did not come back to the authority. He was so angry that he was going to go on social media and complain. Now, this was basically a shot at
him and his buddy Mark.
It's that him and his buddy Mark would stop watching. So this is a complete direct shot. It was very, very good. This is a complete direct shot at people who basically go online and complain about professional wrestling, which is an awful lot of people. And I think it went over. Yeah, exactly. I think it went over everybody's head in the building. But Hunter on this show, like, the one thing that's pissed me off about him, he's fucking brilliant. But the one thing that's pissed me off about him over the years is that because he can get away with stuff, he'll get away with stuff, and you're just kind of thinking to yourself, Hunter, if anybody else said this shit, he would kill him. Yeah. Like the Kofi Kingston thing always comes to mind. Didn't you used to be Jamaican kind of thing? Like,
I remember the one time I went on SmackDown, and it was before the Scramble match. And there was like MVP and Brian Kendrick and people like that, and he just buried everyone 6 feet beneath the earth. And like, you know, just
that was when he was running amok on SmackDown.
He really was.
People
forget how much he ran amok.
That was his last big one.
Because he was a babyface, people don't remember it in the same way as do when he had the Harley in 2003.
Oh.
But that was awful.
He said that everybody had an opportunity to impress him, and because tonight he was going to pick John Cena's opponent at SummerSlam. This brought out Randy Orton and.
Can you pause for a second? Not the show. Can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Why does Triple H not want John Cena to be champion? Because he was happy enough when Daniel Bryan was champion with the idea of John Cena being champion.
Yeah, I just think that
it's as simple as he's the babyface, we're the heels. But there's no.
I don't know. I think that John Cena, like they did the in-ring with him and Hunter a few months ago, and then they did the in-ring with him and Steph and Hunter a few weeks ago, and basically every time, like John Cena is saying, "I'm not going to be your puppet," and. I think they've done enough to differentiate the ideals between the two, whereas you can see Triple H feeling that he would have less control if Cena was the champion. Like, this is unlike TNA where whoever has the championship has control. I think that's
almost what I feel like. It's like when they do that idea in TNA, it makes no sense because obviously the champion doesn't have any power. But I just don't understand why he wants the champion to be someone who is. It's just there's no substance to it. It's in the same way as I don't understand why Roman Reigns doesn't care that Dean Ambrose or that Seth Rollins turned on him. I don't understand it.
They did address this on SmackDown.
They do.
They did address it on SmackDown last week. They did a backstage with Dean and Roman, and it was kind of done there. But anyway, Orton came out. And Triple H said basically Orton was in pole position, which I just think anybody who doesn't read the internet and who doesn't know that Brock Lesnar was due to come back, the idea of SummerSlam 2014 being, I feel really bad for those people, and I'm sure there's a few of those people who didn't stick out the rest of the show. But Kane came out then, the usual gaga about him wanting a shot as well, and then we had Roman Reigns come out. Roman Reigns said that he deserves it as much as anybody. That's what the fans would want to see anyway, according to Roman Reigns. He then Superman punched Kane. Randy Orton got out of dodge, and Triple H made a handicap match for opener. It was a pretty formulaic handicap match. It was there to kind of showcase Roman Reigns. The finish was
Kane.
Was it Kane?
Orton left, didn't
he? Yeah.
And Kane got pinned.
There you go. That was a solid enough opener. It got me very excited about what the main event of the show would be because they got these three out of the way.
Yeah, I think, but it speaks to me to the stuff that I don't like about the product at the moment. Like, this is in theory, you're soon to be number one babyface against the two biggest heels of the last 6 months. It's just the opener on Raw. It's a bad match. No one cares about it. I mean, it's not a bad match, but it's a star and a half, and Reigns really got nothing out of it. It was just.
I think more so than a creative issue, I think this is a 3-hour issue.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Backstage with Stephanie McMahon, who met with 4 divas who were going to go against Nikki Bella. As soon as I saw this, I remembered that there had been rumblings of a Brie Bella Stephanie match at SummerSlam. They were clearly going to heat this back up. Just before the match was due to start, we had Stephanie come out and spot that Brie was in fact in the front row. She went over to Brie.
Well, Nikki spotted first. Nikki spotted her and acted surprised, which I thought was like she didn't know her sister.
Well, Stephanie addressed that. She said it was very cute that you acted surprised.
Yeah, I don't understand why she did act surprised. But anyway,
I don't know. Maybe she thought she might be in more trouble.
I just think maybe she's in her head. But go on.
Well, I don't think there's a maybe about that. So Stephanie came out, had a go at Brie for being there as security takeaway. Brie produced a ticket which. The last time I remember reading about certain people who brought certain rude signs to Monday Night Raw, they were ejected and they were also ticket buying people. Yeah, so go figure. If you have a ticket and you're asked to leave, it might just keep you in the building. As Stephanie went to walk away after berating Brie,
I'll do what Brie did.
Okay, so Stephanie,
you're pathetic, stupid bitch. She's in the background, kind of away from the microphone.
And whoever was beside her, whether it was plants or not, they popped amazingly.
Yeah.
Woo! It's like, to go, man. So Stephanie turned around and said, what did you call me? This was, by the way, this was in retaliation to Stephanie blaming Nikki's demise on Brie leaving the company and leaving Nikki high and dry subsequently. So Stephanie turns back around, asks Nikki what she said. Then
Nikki?
Brie. Then Brie, sorry, was Stephanie also make that mistake.
Yes.
Then Brie grabbed the mic, called her a bitch again, and then
got a big pop. Can I just squeeze just 1 second here? Isn't it interesting how they're still PG, but like they're saying bitch on a very regular basis, which I find.
You have Layla and Summer Rae teased a kiss.
That was at a house show, yeah.
No, on Raw.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they're pushing it.
They are pushing it, yeah. Which I don't have a problem with. I just find it interesting.
It is interesting.
It's a shame we'll never get blood again. But anyway, that's another story.
That's another story for a different day. And when we do a classics show, we can definitely talk about that. Stephanie retaliated with a slap. Brie retaliated by trying to jump over the guardrail before she was ejected. This led to Nikki's tit falling out.
Can I say something?
Yes.
These are the only two siblings to have exposed both have exposed themselves on TV. You remember the
both unintentionally, of course.
What?
Both unintentionally.
Yeah, but Brie was so
that Brie one was mental.
Oh, she was just sitting there, and I guess she had like what are they called, tit tape?
Yeah.
On her dress, and it came loose. Yeah. Small little fellas they were at the nipples.
Whose?
Keys.
Okay, so you've gone into investigation because I didn't.
Before I saw the show, I saw Front Row Brian on Twitter, who had tweeted out a photo of it.
Oh, very good.
I never think
you know where to go.
People who, by the way, people on the internet who are crazy for these things, like, what is wrong with you? It's a nipple. I don't know about anyone else, but like, there's nothing attractive to me about like a half a nipple sticking out of someone's top. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just a weird kind of fetish, but
it's very weird.
They were noticeably small compared to the large fake breasts she has.
And them's the breaks.
Yeah,
them's the breaks. Don't you need?
They can't gimmick up the nipples.
No, even society.
I always thought. Speaking of gimmick nipples, remember Terry Williams always had like a bee sting thing going on under her shirt?
Sure.
I'm sure those were those gimmick fellas, you know?
Think they were gimmicks?
I think those were gimmicks, yeah.
Well, you know, even Cesaro's pizza-like nipples probably wouldn't be big enough for...
Are they big fellas, are they?
Have you not seen them?
I don't pay attention to them, no. I wouldn't pay attention to any of the nipples where they're not all over Twitter, you know? My wife's going to listen to the show and think, what's wrong with my husband?
That's the thing, like if Cesaro wore a t-shirt but it was just kind of a half nipple exposed, then it would be all over the place. But just take the picture top instead of the blooms, you know, what's left to be desired.
I want somebody to like, who wears this t-shirt? I want like Road Dogg's nipple on the internet somewhere in time. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, where would you get analysis like it?
You could, like, if you got him to sign a picture of that and you just like, unreal. Bo Dallas against Damien Sandow. What was Damien Sandow?
I don't know.
Oh, he's LeBron James, and there's some sort of sports implication. Is this them?
This by the way, this was the arena we were at for Brock's return in 2012.
I'm aware of this. Me and Ken were both at that show. Bo Dallas, have they turned? Bo's the face now, is he?
I don't care.
Or is this just? I think there was actually one
people
point
put a lot of,
JBL
I heard a debate between Brian and Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio about that, but they just do things now sometimes, you know, like Wade Barrett.
I think they're both heels because I think that JBL said this is, I can't remember the two examples he gave, but this is like hoping that blah blah wins over blah blah. Do you know what I mean? Cancer over AIDS or something.
Okay.
Probably.
I hope it wasn't that.
No, I don't think it was. We had Chris Jericho highlight reel, but they ran an angle on the app drink commercial that they subsequently showed later.
Apparently he wasn't there, I believe. I read somewhere.
Is that correct?
This was taped the night before.
Oh. That's really clever then. They should do that stuff all the time. So basically we had they said what happened, but we had the Wyatts coming out of full entrance. It looked fantastic. What they've done now to the Titantron is they've actually put little lights in as well. So the kind of the effect that the crowd have with their phones out, it's kind of completely 360 now. So that looks really cool.
Again, he's a great entrance.
He's a great entrance. He came out and they had the highlight reel Geritron 3000 in the background.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
People criticise John Cena all the time, or John Cena's character, or the writing for John Cena's character, because he doesn't sell anything, you know? He loses a match and it's like championships come and go.
This wasn't the same.
It was the same. He basically said, I lost, but it doesn't matter, I'll win the war.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing.
I get you more excited about the future matches. John Cena comes out after losing a belt.
Okay, I watched this promo.
Blah, blah.
I watched this promo and I felt like the match last night didn't matter.
When you said the line...
When you
said the line, I was completely agreeing with you. But when he then went on to talk about the war and whatnot, I was like, okay, it's slightly better.
Okay, I'll put it this way. Does that match feel in any way significant to this feud?
I wouldn't compare it to John Cena because he wasn't smiling while he said it.
Just because he doesn't smile. I think it's almost even worse.
No.
It's almost even worse for a heel not to sell it.
You mentioned earlier when we talked about the pay-per-view that you didn't even think this was a good... that usually he's a bit... he's a bit rambling, he doesn't actually have a point to make. I actually thought this was a really good promo by him. But I agree with you half the time. I think he's hit and miss. I think he's heavily hit and miss. But I think this was a good one. He
You know,
asked us to-
here's actually something. Anybody who's ever listened to the Brian Binney show will have heard them oftentimes refer to the wrestling business passing them by, and I actually take some responsibility on my own shoulders. I think that watching Bray Wyatt and my not my distaste for him, but just my absolute apathy toward him indicates that perhaps the wrestling business is passing me by somewhat, because he just doesn't really interest me at all. I don't want to watch his promos. I don't want to watch his matches.
I don't know if it's as blanket as the whole business passing you by at all. I just think it's one character, and that's fair. And look, when your criticisms of him, they're not like, I'm not like aghast at them. Do you know what I mean? I can see it, but I just think that I just like him more than you do.
Yeah, fair
but
enough.
I definitely, he has his issues. Look, as I said earlier, there's only 2 singles matches that I even really enjoyed, and because I forgot about the third one, there's not much connection that I have.
As a recently outed homosexual former wrestler would say, some like chocolate, some like vanilla.
Recently. So something that was very unlike his character, and I hate when certain people do this,
Neil,
like Taker would do it, or Bray would, or this reminded me of Bray did. He said, look at this, and he points to, so basically what you're telling me is that The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt have had to have a discussion with the production people about this
Yo, Kevin Dunn.
It's just ridiculous. Like,
do you remember at Hunter's Music back in the day? There was a bit. It said something like "Yo, Dunn, hit the switch" or something like that.
Yeah,
when it was Chris Warren and the DX man. But I feel we should cut the show off. I think we peaked with the nipple talk. I think we're going seriously downhill when we mentioned Kevin Dunn. You know what I mean?
I don't want to talk about Kevin Dunn. Let's stop talking.
Let's talk about his teeth. That might bring us back up to the nipple level there.
We'll save that for next week's show. We'll have our little, body part section.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can do a body part section here. So they went to the backstage, and they showed Chris Jericho backstage, and the Wyatts coming upon him. They had a brawl coming upon him. Sorry. They had a brawl, and basically Bray gave him the Sister Abigail into a locker. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but when he gave him the Sister Abigail, Bray was facing the camera, which meant the back of Jericho's head was facing the camera. And poor old Chris, it has begun. The back of his head, parts of it were pink and as visible as a slap baby's arse. The man's going bald.
Is he?
And the only reason you couldn't tell at the front, like you do with most men, is because he spikes the shit out of it. And if you look at him compared to 2008 or anything now, he's so much more height in the spikes to make up for it.
Wow.
An old trick.
I'm going to go back and
watch the back of Jericho's head. Yeah, and I thought somebody like him maybe would have like.
And he's somebody that won't do well for him,
No, no. I thought he'd be the kind of person that would nip that in the bud when it first happens. Do something about it. But
maybe he will. And he's got plenty of money.
That's it, right? That's it. Okay, so it basically cut back from that, and. As Ken said, that line that we were debating about sums up the promo. He didn't win the battle, but he's sure he's going to win the Raw. He's going to win the war. I would Monday Night Raw is war. So this feud must continue. That was a good promo. Okay, backstage we had Flo Rida walking the halls, being greeted by Big E and Kofi Kingston. This was a slight prelude to something that happened later, and maybe you could put Flo Rida in that faction. Yeah. But people are jumping to we'll
talk about that later.
Can we talk about the ethnicity of the group? But we had Miz and Dolph Ziggler up next. This was a fucking long match.
It was a good match. They had a good match. I don't think they blew too much.
Now, there is one thing about this match. I have never in my life heard, and I'm including some Cena matches of the last few years in this, I've never heard more chitter chatter in my life.
Really?
So loud.
Well, you have to remember, I watched this with a 14-month-old tottering about the place, so I don't pick up on that. I do remember. I can't remember what match it was in. Maybe Paige was doing a lot of chat with AJ the night before, I recall.
Absolutely true. Last 2 nights have been heavy with chat.
Yeah, it's kind of funny like that.
Cena's Raw main events, more so than his pay-per-views, because obviously Raw has less stuff planned out. Cena's Raw main events over the last 2 years have been fucking outrageous.
Alright, let's move on.
There's a segment in Botchamania called Everybody Talks Too Much, where they, they'll take the week's worth of that. So they've got like they can basically show the full Miz Dolph match if they want, but they added a new section a year ago called Cena Talks Too Much. It's got
Cena
that
Talks
bad.
Too Much. I'll have to Google that.
Okay, so backstage we had Triple H let down Rollins. He says that there's just no point in him fighting John Cena at SummerSlam for the belt because he's got the money in the bank and he might as well wait. This had Cesaro come in and ask for an opportunity. He officially announced he's no longer a Heyman guy.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Last week I did call that one.
Sure you did.
I got the belt wrong, but I got the Heyman one right.
Triple H said
Or Cesaro, by the way, eliminated by Heath Slater in the Battle Royal on it before as well.
That was a really interesting one.
Yeah.
The crack was there.
I have an idea. Can I fancy book?
Oh, please.
I think that they should reheat up the Swagger Rusev feud maybe in a couple of weeks when the heat has died down. Keep that going. Have Cesaro disappear for 6-8 weeks, and then have Cesaro make the save for Zeb and Swagger.
Oh, nice.
Have him turn face and have him be the guy who beat Rusev, because ultimately who in the long term has more of an upside, you know?
That's great.
And that would be a big win because Rusev hasn't been beaten, you know?
Okay. That's really good.
And then it makes sense, ties into their history. Because they didn't have they had a split, but it wasn't a very bad split with Coulter and Swagger.
He smashed his trophy, Ken.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Triple H.
That, by the way, is another thing, because I thought that Battle Royal was going to be yearly, and, you know, it's not like he's carried it around or everything, so it'll be meaningless next year.
I don't think it's like yearly. I know that Hogan said annual, but I think that they'll...
It was just a Hogan being a Hogan, was it?
Or yeah, or
the Silver Superdome.
Maybe that's how they got him involved in the show for that prize. They said like, you'll be starting this thing, like you're gonna like this is gonna be an annual thing.
No, I think if it's not annually, it's because Hulk just made it up. Come on,
a very very good chance. Cesaro said he'd rather be a Triple H guy. Triple H said he could prove it by taking on Dean Ambrose tonight. We Paige and AJ teaming up again against Emma and Natalia. This is a pretty straightforward match.
They should have called them Paige A.
Now the opportunity is gone.
It's gone, I know.
Because Paige turned heel at the end. Before that, however, when AJ was making the comeback, she did Shining Wizard to Natalia while Natalia had AJ. There was a moment where Natalia's fucking awesome, especially compared to the other two goons. She gave Paige a German, and before Paige's body...
It's not like you know...
I think it's pretty much implied on a wrestling podcast. Alright, like, I'm going to win the match, like...
Dodgy eyebrows, go on.
I tried at least.
No, but they can't see it, Neil.
So we had... she gave her German, and before her legs settled back down, she already caught her for the sharpshooter. AJ came in and gave her Shining Wizard and actually looked like it creamed her, to the point where after the match, like Natalia was holding her face, they celebrated the win.
And Paige turned heel on her.
Yeah, she grabbed her hair, turned heel,
beat her up
all around the place. Pretty good.
Yeah,
and I think as bad as it's been for Paige since she debuted, in fact they really gave her no personality pieces. We didn't know anything about her.
This is for the best.
Yeah, I think that hopefully they will be able to rehab her, because I feel it's been a disaster, but she always struck me as somebody who would be better as a heel.
Really, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, because that's what, like, look at her mom. And who, that's who she's obviously learning from. Zack Ryder versus Fandango. Zack Ryder got to come out with the two chicks, Summer and Layla. This is pretty much what every Fandango opponent gets to do now, and they also get to beat him.
Yes, and Zack Ryder acted shocked. So then the announcers buried him on commentary.
JBL, right? This is the first note I wrote down for Raw. So JBL was...
Oh God!
Was trying to say that he was the internet champion, but because Zack Ryder's never on Raw or never wins, he forgot what that tagline. So he called him a Technics geek.
A Technics geek. I don't even know what that means.
I know.
There was something else on comedy the night before where they all had to stop for a minute. I can't remember what it was. It was early in the show.
I do remember it.
But anyway.
I was really worried during that tag match that JBL was going to say something about Emma, because it's the first time she'd been on.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, they were told not to.
Anyway, we've now spent more than... I checked the clock. We spent more time on this match than it got on Raw, so let's move on.
Sorry, we were talking about the techniques.
I know, yeah.
Okay, so basically we had Flo Rida and Heath Slater rekindled their feud from WrestleMania 28, and much like the first time they met, Flo Rida got the advantage again.
Yeah. Then he did a song. He was introduced by Stephanie.
Now this was so weird. I was like, why the fuck is Stephanie?
I thought it was strange,
because he wasn't getting the biggest reaction anyway.
No, I think Florida's probably over Flo Rida, but So then afterwards, we kind of cut back to the announce desk, and they're kind of recapping things. And
but what do you think of the performance?
I mean,
do you want to actually talk about it?
No, I don't. It's a musical performance at a wrestling show. They're great when you're there live, and they're the shits on TV.
I had real big issues with this.
Why?
He was rapping over himself, but yet he didn't sound anything like himself. I just can't understand how this man who's so famous in America.
Yeah, and like this Pitbull dude who wore like a shirt that didn't fit him doing the World Cup Open. It was like, who are you?
I don't know.
And they were so far out of sync with the song, him and J-Lo. But anyway,
yeah, no, this is horrific.
So we cut back, and the announcers are kind of wrapping things up, moving to the next segment, when we kind of see Stephanie standing there talking to a WWE security guard and two men in suits. And you can see the conversation is getting quite heated, and if you've an ounce of foresight, you realise these two men are quote-unquote police officers. We start seeing badges being flashed, and then we get to eavesdrop in on the conversation. This was done very well. It wasn't mic'd up, it was just the camera that picked it up.
And they took their time with it, which made it seem more real.
Yes.
This is the second night in a row that they had the announcers do a cutaway and then something happened.
Yes.
So the pay-per-view, you had Rollins and you had Ambrose come back to attack Rollins. Tonight you had the Stephanie thing.
It's good, it's a good thing. So basically, they asked her if she'd attacked Brie. Stephanie was fantastic here. She was really, really terrific.
Yeah.
Talking about how she's going to have their badges. She had so much power in the city. But eventually, she admitted she'd struck Brie, and she was arrested. I'm never a huge fan of these angles in the sense that everyone should be arrested on a wrestling show if this was the case. But it worked here. The crowd really got behind it. They sang the Na 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 song. When we got backstage, this was Triple H's best performance all time, all his life.
Before we get to the Triple H performance, can we talk about what happened to Stephanie's chest when she was handcuffed?
What happened?
Okay, so for whatever reason, the way that Stephanie's implants
was there more nipples?
It was.
Her breasts looked noticeably smaller than they did in like 2001 when she first got her gigantic implants.
Well, what happened was, I think that, this is the thing. Do you remember China when
the
she
big gap?
Right. Did you not notice when Stephanie had her hand?
Yeah, I did actually.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like Kofi Kingston.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very strange.
And it looked really bad, and I'm sure she won't get. So Triple H, Stephanie is playing it up like Stephanie can't believe it's happening. This is as she's being brought to the car. Triple H. Then it cuts backstage. We've got Triple H.
Yes, and Triple H is giving the cops a load of guff about just about this is a big. You really want to do this, guys? This is a big decision for you. And they started saying, "Oh, you're driving a hybrid. Wow, you guys have done well." And I loved. He's like, "Steph, Jerry's on the way." Talking about Jerry McDivitt,
who is their real life editor.
Yeah, which is just that was just for me, you, and the rest of us. I really like that line. And then Steph gets zoomed off in the car, and the best part of this was the next segment with Joey Mercury and Triple H, where Joey Mercury, as Hunter is about to leave the building to go and join his stricken wife at the police station, Joey Mercury reminds him that CM Punk bought him his house. No, he reminds him that Hunter had been planning to announce the main event for SummerSlam, and Hunter goes, "I can't do that. Steph's in the police station. Family comes first." And then he kind of thinks about it, and she has to be processed, and the lawyer's on the way, and put the car on hold. We'll announce the main event, and then I'll go, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely everything about the segment was phenomenal. It was a brilliant angle. It's just when the McMahons are in it and they give a shit, it just shows how good the show can be. Pity they can't have these things for other people sometimes. I don't know, but it was an amazing segment. Triple H.
I found it noticeable, by the way, that Stephanie sold big time for Vicky Guerrero recently, and she looked like an ass here. But in the Daniel Bryan feud, she never ever sold at all.
I think she's okay selling for women.
Maybe, yeah. But it's just interesting. Like I feel like Brie. I feel like Brie
in a different way. You see, physically. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, but what I mean is she never showed ass. Like Vince would always show ass for Steve Austin. Steph never showed. I don't literally mean Jesus between Stephanie.
No, I'm just laughing because literally Vince would do anything for
Steve Austin. Vince would literally show ass. But what I mean is she would never get humiliated for Brian, but she's gotten humiliated a couple of times recently, and I just feel like maybe they were going to go there if Brian hadn't disappeared. But anyway, yeah. So next was Ryback against Kofi and Big E. Went about 3 minutes. Weird finish. I've been watching a lot of tag matches. I'm watching the NWA Tag Team Championship tournament, which apparently is separate to the WCW Tag Team Championship in 1992. God, it's hard to keep track of. But I've been watching that, and there's like 3 matches with this finish where babyface goes for a cross body block, heel, flips over and gets the pinfall.
Sure.
So that's the pin here, and I just thought it was really strange, since you're doing Ryback and Kofi, why Ryback doesn't just catch him and hit him with his finish.
Weird, yeah.
But anyway,
finish.
afterwards,
Xavier Woods shows up in the ring, and he's wearing a white suit and a red shirt and glasses.
he should be Consequences Creed.
That was a great name.
Yeah.
I'd say 90% of the people in the building
had no idea who he was. I was like, is that Consequences? I mean, that's actually what I said. I was like, is that Consequences Creed?
No, it took me a moment or two as well. Basically, he just said, we're being held down and stuff. So he's saying this to Big E and Kofi. They're nodding along. He's saying, we're being held down. We're better than this. It's about time that we stood up. We make a stand, and from now on we will, so on and so forth. So because the 3 of them are African American, the automatic conclusion is this is a new nation of domination kind of black group.
Yeah, I actually think it's just a direct rip-off of MVP Lashley and Kenny King on TNA.
Do you think that it will be a solely black group?
Yeah, because the talk was Mark Henry or Truth being added to it.
I just think that's weird to do that in this day and age.
Yeah, but I mean,
if there's 3 white guys, wouldn't be seen as like a white group.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time in America. You do have gangs of people who are exclusively,
one race or the other. Of course,
yeah,
you do. But at the same time,
but I know what you mean.
It can't be about it the way the original nation was. Like the original nation ended up getting owned.
Yeah, it was just.
Well, actually, it started off with Crush and stuff.
Yeah, and Savio Vega, who's Puerto Rican,
and the 2 rappers, PG-13.
Yeah, but in fact, Farouk was the only black man plus all the entourage.
And then it went to an all-black thing, and then was it own?
Yeah.
No, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's going.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, I'm fine with this because I think Kofi and Big E is a heel tag team. I'd like that. I think Kofi.
You think definitely heel?
Oh, definitely, no question.
Because just Kofi Kingston is a heel. It's just with his style.
Yeah. But you need to do something. I've been for the last month or 2. I've been thinking that 3 guys in the roster: Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, and The Miz. They just needed to do something with them or cut, because I don't want to see these guys come out and lose matches every week. It's just not entertaining to me. I'd rather see new guys come out and lose matches every week. So that's why I was kind of pleased they were giving The Miz some shine. And Ziggler obviously looks to be feuding with him now, and if they give Kofi something here, that's great. I know they're all African American, or is it racist now to say black?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, I know they're all black guys, but I just don't think there's anyone else floating around in that position right now. And maybe Ziggler, but other than that, those just happen to be those 3 guys. And
Kofi, Henry, and Woods and Truth could really do with it if we're going to keep it to that.
That's what I mean. If there just doesn't happen to be a lot of other baby faces who are, hanging around the bottom of the card who are white. You know what I mean? They seem to all be black guys.
Absolutely. Okay, so Great Khali against Rusev. They kind of learned their lesson. They got a lot of heat on Bleacher Report. The Daily Mirror carried it. An awful lot of news agencies around the world carried the idea that they had alluded to the
Malaysian Airlines.
They released a statement in between Sunday and Monday night, so in between the pay-per-view and Raw, where they basically said, no, not at all. That was just the way the verbiage was taken. Yeah, okay, so we know that this is them covering their ass.
Can I say something here? This was to WWE what the Russo thing was to TNA. This was absolute stupidity. They had no reason to mention that in that promo on Sunday night. They absolutely deserve their criticism they're getting.
They just had to do it, didn't they? They just had to do it. Well,
anyway, they can't help themselves.
They can't. But Lana...
And they've been burned with the Hassan thing before.
There you go. Lana had...
she got cut off by the entrance of Khali, and they had a bad match. Which Rusev won. So then we had... another weird Stardust and Goldust thing.
Yeah, we had one on the pay-per-views though we didn't mention. I think they filmed these all in one go.
I hope so. Cesaro and Dean Ambrose went about 10 minutes.
One thing we didn't mention about the pay-per-view was the last thing with Dean and Seth, where Seth went to the...
Oh yeah.
Seth went to escape. And this didn't make much sense, because if Seth's plan B...
He's can't win the championship. Why is he leaving the building? Yeah.
By the way, this very Algier and Austin-esque, where you had Seth turn around on his way to his car, and Dean come from...
behind, out of his trunk.
In his trunk, yeah.
Attack him.
But Seth was standing there looking like a plonker for quite some time.
Like an idiot,
they might have missed their cue there. Did you enjoy this match, Dean Ambrose and Cesaro? I did.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I knew we weren't getting the finish, and so whatever.
Yeah, the finish was a DQ for Cesaro because Dean Ambrose used a chair. Yeah. It's just kind of put him over as a nutter, I suppose.
Yeah, it's fine. I just knew this match we're not getting the finish, and whatever.
Okay,
and then we ended the show. I felt the show finished really flat. I think.
What?
I just thought everyone knew it was Brock Lesnar. He got a nice pop coming out. So yeah, sorry to recap. Triple H announced that Well, no, he was going to announce that Randy Orton was challenging in SummerSlam when Roman Reigns kind of jumped him and they brawled, which is very Ambrose Rollins-esque. But anyway, so then out came Paul Heyman, announced quote-unquote Plan C, which was Brock Lesnar. Lesnar came to the ring, shook hands with Triple H. Heyman shook hands with Triple H, and Paul cut a promo, basically explaining why Brock was going to win in SummerSlam. It was okay, but it just did nothing for me.
Yeah, I actually really liked Paul's promo. I thought it was really, really good. I thought like all the stuff with Undertaker.
Well, I mean, it was a good promo.
I think it was perfect, to be honest. They showed for the first time ever on Raw the finish to the Undertaker Brock Lesnar match, which helped.
I just felt he should have beaten someone up or done something, you know.
That's coming.
No, I'm sure it is. I just felt it felt like a flat ending to the show.
Would you have had Lesnar come out and destroy both Cesaro and Dean instead?
Not Cesaro, because then you feel like that's
really
direction.
Killed him. Yeah.
And I just don't think he could have. Not certainly not Dean. No, but I don't know. I don't think there's anyone low enough on the totem pole who could be out there to have him. So I just felt it kind of came across flat.
That's fair enough. So you didn't enjoy the show as much as I did. I thought it felt like an eventful show. I made me excited about SummerSlam. It felt very, very old school to me with the Stephanie angle, the way Hunter was acting on the show.
There were good parts of it, Neil. It's a 3-hour, 15-minute long show, and there's about 60 minutes of entertainment in it.
I'm also excited to see where this nation thing goes, but it really felt like 3 hours last night at times.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no doubt about it. Okay, we'll be back on Sunday with our MMA show as always. You can tune in on 103.2 FM, Dublin City FM. We'll be on at 4 till 4:30 discussing everything in the world of mixed martial arts. This week we'll be hopefully having a guest on, and we'll also be talking about the Colin Pendred interview on Today FM with Ray Darcy, which has really gotten a lot of ears glued to it because of Ray Darcy's lack of investigative journalism and just being an all-round twat and not really understanding the sport, which is terrible because I fucking love Ray Darcy and I agree with every one of his political and social views, but not this time. So we're going to talk about that in Dublin City FM. If you missed it, it'll be podcasted on Monday. We'll be back next week with our Raw review, and then what are we going to do for our classic show, our supplemental show that we start next week?
Yeah, I think it's SmackDown, isn't it? We still have
first ever SmackDown.
Maybe we can do something else and do a bumper show.
Sounds good. Okay, well listen, any final words, Ken? I did this, by the way, on the football show and I had to bleep out what was said. So if you have...
any final words?
Any final words, Ken?
Thanks for listening.
Okay, lovely stuff. Right, guys, we'll be back to you with MMA on Sunday, and we'll be back with This Ain't Fake, Brother, Wednesday week.